You know who Canucks fans should be thanking right now? Former general manager Patrick Allvin. And they also got to be thanking JT Miller. Because all of a sudden, in the big old 2026, heading into 2027, 2028, 2029, and inevitably 2030, oh boy, JT Miller is all of a sudden more relevant than ever in Vancouver Canucks lore. Lego, what are you talking about? JT Miller played for the Canucks, yes. He was a 100-point scorer, yes. He got traded less than a year after scoring 100 points in a season for the Vancouver Canucks, yes. What are you talking about? This guy's going to be relevant for the Canucks in the next few years? Yes. Here's why. A tweet posted by Jim Leahy, Hockey Night in Canada, goes out there and talks about how they just realized the deal that the Vancouver Canucks signed JT Miller to, and his ability to be effective at 36 years old, will directly influence how good of a draft pick the Canucks will get. A draft pick that they received for Marcus Pettersson, whom they landed when Miller was traded in the first place. Talk about a full circle moment. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is poetry in motion. JT Miller is signed on with the New York Rangers till the end of 2030, making $8 million a year. This is a contract that we all thought was going to be a steal back when it was signed, because Miller was an 82, 199-point guy at the time. Oh boy, JT Miller is going to be on the books till 2030 at $8 million a year. That doesn't really matter. The Vancouver Canucks are competitive. They're making the playoffs. They're going far. They're doing things, and Miller's getting a lot of points. So $8 million for a guy who is in his prime scoring all these points right now is not bad, right? But then the season after happened, and JT and Elias Pettersson fell apart. Miller ended off that next season with 70 points split between the Canucks and the Rangers in 72 total games. So obviously he was fine in 2024-2025. But things took an even weirder turn when Miller was given the captaincy last summer, and he ended up scoring 53 points in 68 games the next year. Not a bad number, all things considered, but the way Rangers fans talked about JT Miller, you can tell that all the toxicity and the negativity that surrounded this guy in his last few months with the Canucks has very clearly carried over into the Rangers fan base in 2025-2026. Rangers fans, from everything I'm seeing all over social media, they don't really like this dude all too much. And there are significant questions as to whether or not Miller's on-ice leadership really is deserving of getting that captaincy in the first place, and whether or not this is a guy that is actually mentally and physically equipped to be a leader for New York to allow them to be competitive and make the playoffs once more. And he's signed on till 2030. The Vancouver Canucks first-round pick that they received in the Marcus Pettersson trade. Marcus Pettersson, by the way, traded to Vancouver for the first-round pick that they got from the Rangers the first time. Now he's a Ranger himself, and the Canucks grabbed themselves that New York 2030 first-round pick. That is brilliant. JT Miller is currently 33 years old. By the time 2030 comes around, he's going to be 37. This guy was already declining. This guy was already putting himself in an unfavorable position amongst the fan base. And now you're saying that his potentially bad performance 4 years from now will directly influence Vancouver's draft capital? That's awesome, man. That is awesome. What a realization out of Jim Leahy. Canucks are winning the cup says, hey, not a chance. Miller will be a shell of himself by then because of his physical game. It was never going to come down to that. What it will come down to is if New York can lure some star player or not. If not, it'll be top 10 for sure. Now, we all know the details about the first-round pick that the Canucks acquired from New York. It's for 2030, but it's top 10 protected. So if the Rangers suck in 2029, 2030, which I'm not going to rule out, it's very well possible that they do poorly, that first-round pick slides to 2031 unprotected. So if the Rangers get first overall in 2030, okay, great. They're going to get a top draft pick, and they will keep it. But 2031 is Vancouver's no shot. It's up for grabs. Actually, I think the Rangers have the opportunity to give the 2030 pick to Vancouver anyway. If the pick is in the top 10, they have the choice, I'm pretty sure. I'm not too certain about that, but either way, if the Rangers stink in 2029-30, JT Miller, who was the captain of the team, will probably have a pretty big hand in that. So if it influences Vancouver to potentially getting an even better draft pick in 2031, then anything goes, right? Of course, I won't discredit the idea that maybe the Rangers suck in 2030, Miller ends up leaving in free agency because he's 37 years old, and then maybe by some miracle, the Rangers with their top prospect in 2030 end up actually having a good team in 2030, 2031, and maybe that first-round pick that Vancouver gets in the Marcus Pettersson trade is actually a lot worse. That's possible as well. There are even some folks going out here and saying, yeah, who knows if Miller's even on New York after next year. Hot take, Miller doesn't finish that contract in New York. He's traded or even bought out. That's a possibility. I mean, his game is declining. He's a physical specimen on the ice, and he is already in the early parts of his 30s, so I don't want to say it's guaranteed that JT is a full-fledged New York Ranger for the next 4 years until 2030. For what it's worth, Sapster went out there and posted this, trading JT Miller just so the Canucks could eventually get an unprotected first-round pick 6 years down the line. Chef Alvin starting to cook one last meal before letting Chef Ryan Johnson finish the job. These guys are like Dwayne Wade and LeBron right here. Except SpongeBob. And I really like the way that this is all being put together. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you are a New York Rangers fan, obviously you don't care about a 2030 first round pick. That's Chris Drury saying, yeah, it's not my problem. It's the next GM's problem because I'm fighting for my life here. I'm fighting for my job. I want to be able to survive in this role. And I want to be able to put together a team that actually has what it takes to win. But maybe in the short term, that's possible. Maybe it's not possible. Who really knows? The Rangers didn't have a great year after all. But heading into 2030, at what point does this start to become concerning for you if you're a Rangers fan? If it becomes concerning at all. Like, if you don't care about this draft pick, you don't care about what the Rangers are doing in 2030 or in 2031, depending on how good they are and whether or not JT Miller's still kicking it on the team, then okay, that's your prerogative. But if you are looking at this from the perspective of maximizing projectable value down the line, not just in the present, then I wonder just what the response is from New York Rangers fans. They seem to be pretty on board with the Marcus Pettersson trade when it went down initially because it's all about just improving the team right now. But who knows? Is that a good strategy for this team? I guess we'll find out, depending on how well they do this season, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Marcus Pettersson trade and how JT Miller, all of a sudden, is a relevant Vancouver Canucks-related talking point because of his leadership and his hockey team that will potentially be giving Vancouver a pretty good pick in 4 or 5 years. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.